guy who means so much to that team.
I'm not going to lie. I messed with Dave Canales forever. This is the first time I've ever seen him with a freaking water. Just, I'm clapping here for you, buddy. Just clapping for you. Absolutely. So happy for you. I hate seeing him lick his lips. They finally got him a bottle of water. I have finally reached the pinnacle of roll coverage. Thank you.
Hey, I thought it was all over.
Nope. They roll coverage. Some great meetings, some great just connection with the guys, accountability all across the board, starting with the coaching staff, the players as well. What can we take and what can we learn from this experience, to look at the difficult positions we put ourselves in, really in every phase. And so, that was the message, is like, hey guys, let's not make it about anything else but the ball. Let's get our X's and O's, let's talk fundamentals, and let's improve for next week.
Okay, so first I want to welcome you to Roll Coverage, home of the press conference breakdown. And if you were here when we did our last Dave Canales press conference about 2 days ago, gave us a little bit of a break, Dave Canales immediately came out and said that there was a lot of failures on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I obviously came out and said a lot of the failures were truly on the offensive side of the ball rather than that defensive side. The defensive side was also gutted of talent. We lost a lot of people to free agency, to trades, very poor trades, I might add. So I'm not giving you 100% of the slack for this. Most of the issues that came from what we saw, to be honest, were issues that we saw last year and what we saw the year before that. This is a organizational failure, regardless of anything. Dave, honestly, just needs to get, I continue to say 6 wins, but to be honest, it's probably lower at this point. And the rumor is that he's already been in David Tepper's office. So for that reason, I don't think his job is safe at all. I think that Dave Canales could get one and done, and that would really suck for the franchise because that means Bryce is definitely gone. But I want to know your thoughts, so make sure you throw them down in the comments before we continue. This one's going to be an interesting game this week. Again, don't have high expectations at all. Obviously, I'm staying with my pick that the Bucs are going to win the division. The Saints are good, might be better than the Falcons, but we're going to have to wait to figure that out. So hopefully you guys are ready for the rest of this press conference breakdown.
The Derrick Brown injury, when did that happen? When did you guys learn about it? Kind of give us details.
He's not really sure. We're not really sure. It's a physical game, so when you play interior, like there's a lot of funky positions you get into, but it popped up on us. They're getting a second opinion. That's really all I can give you right now. He's, of course, just like Derrick, like the spirit of it. And the one thing I can say is, like, you look at this game, and regardless of the time or the score, it's PAT or it's field goal, and Derrick is rushing with full effort the whole time. It's the spirit of what we want to be about with the finish. And so for a guy like that, to talk to him today, like, he's like, I want to get a second opinion. Like, he wants to make sure that this thing is, to a point where there has to be other, stuff, other things to be taken in consideration. But I don't know when that second opinion is going to happen. They're trying to schedule that, and then I'll have more information for you.
Hey, I know that it is officially scheduled, and he was placed on season-ending IR, so I really appreciate the one game you gave us, Mr. Derrick Brown, and of course you earned that contract. This is absolutely not on you. I'm actually happy, to be honest, that you don't have to deal with this year. Just get your paycheck, feel better, rehab, and come back ready for next year, where hopefully we've got more pieces to help you out on the defensive side of the ball.
Did he come in this morning and tell you, or was it like an adrenaline thing where he didn't feel
Yeah, it was. He woke up this morning, and they asked him to go get an MRI immediately so we can gather some information about what's happening.
Can you give us any details of what it is? Are you fearing
it's a meniscus? It's a meniscus injury, and the severity of it is what they're checking on.
torn?
I think so. Yeah.
If it is that, what is the timeline, would you say?
I don't know. We're going to get that when we get the second opinion.
I did want to clarify, you mentioned he came in this morning, but was there concern at any point yesterday, or when did this first come across?
He was a little bit sore last night, and it just was, it was a lot more so this morning when he woke up, so.
Dave, when you watch the film, especially defensively, what do you think the disconnect was?
You know, it was communication and fundamentals. It was playing proper technique, you know, throughout the game, and it was here and it was there and it was all over the place. So the guys were great about it. They were accountable with it. The coaches, you know, were going right to the basics of our calls and where we're expecting help and leverage and all those things, you know. So it was the thing that really came out of it off the film.
Do you feel like you could have, we talked about the preseason last night, but do you feel like you needed to rep it differently in practice, or like what's the solution? We're
looking at all of it. So I think my responsibility as the head coach is to say, okay, let's look at all the processes. And we had a plan. We went into into training camp, into the preseason with a plan in mind. The ramp up as we got closer to the season, and you know, felt good about the rep counts and all that. But I got to look at everything. You know, to come out and to, in all phases have that much to fix. It starts with me. It starts with the process, and it starts with us combing through all of it to see there's nothing you can do about it now, about the past, but looking forward as you circle back around, is there a way that we could have helped more? So
absolutely there's a way you could have, and that was putting a coherent and, to be honest, just good enough offense out there. We put our defense in a situation where they needed to be on the field constantly. Special teams was constantly getting challenged because we weren't able to limit the amount of possessions. If we give teams that amount of possessions, they're going to score that amount of times. We're going to be the team like last year. You remember that? You remember that 70-point game that we saw? Yeah, that could be us this year. We could be on the receiving end of that. That's not what I want. We need to improve somewhere, and the first place that needs improvement is the offense. You're an offensive guru. You apparently fixed Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith, even though Geno doesn't give you the credit because you were the wide receiver coach and then QB coach, not OC. Or Baker, who is doing just fine so far with Liam Cohen. So this is really the barometer. If he can't fix Bryce, then maybe those other two were not the norm. So that's going to be something we also have to deal with. Again, I predicted that Dave would make his way to our Carolina Panthers, but David Tepper continually stands in his way and does not give him the opportunity to fix things. This is going to take more than one offseason for a coach that's only been here 6 months. Just like how I felt last year about Frank Reich, where he only got 8 months before he was fired. Can't fix anything in that amount of time. Dave Canales hasn't had the opportunity to fix everything that truly needs to be fixed. So for that reason, I feel bad for Dave Canales.
What's your plan at defensive tackle or defensive end if Derrick has to miss?
Yeah, so we got PV up. We have LeBron Ray on the roster, who's looked stronger and stronger. You know, he came back to us after an illness he had in camp, so he's looked better and better. You know, the next guy's got to pop up there, and we're counting on all those guys. Nick Thurman as well. We're counting on all those guys to play with great fundamentals and to just do their job, to do their part. So we can play good team defense.
Before the season started, you said that this would be a team dedicated to the run.
Yeah.
Do you think you committed to that as much as you wanted to this first game? And if not, why?
We really did. We really did, and that was not the result we were hoping for. And the emphasis has been that way. We've had a good amount of run reps throughout camp. In our weeks, we believe in it. So offensively and defensively, we feature the things that we think the opponent's going to do. We feature the fronts that we think the opponent's going to play with us against on the offensive side. So the emphasis was there. We didn't get the result we wanted.
Dave, after, I imagine you watched the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. What did you see from Bryce? Wasn't he doing right?
Yeah, I would say from a footwork standpoint, I thought it was a solid day. You know, as we went through the grades, looking at his footwork and the discipline of it, it was there. I think he missed a couple of throws. I think that he's learning some of his guys, you know, and we've gotten all these reps and we got to keep accumulating those reps, you know, but what I saw from him was just kind of like, you know, missing a few of his opportunities that he had there. And I also have to give the Saints credit for covering us really well. And they made it hard and they forced accurate throws. And that's something that we have to make sure we cash in on when we have those opportunities.
Yeah, but we were sold on the idea that Bryce Young coming out of Alabama was some sort of savant. Everybody was super happy that he had this super high C2 score, which again, I did a video on. Boom. that was just about, I think that the C2 thing is a big fluke and will be a big problem moving forward. The C2 test won't be mentioned much moving forwards, or at all, because of what it did to Bryce and Stroud's position. Of course, most people thought Bryce would go number 1, but the Panthers were planning on trading up to the Texans number 2 to take Stroud. So when they went to 1, they said, oh, well, everybody else wanted Bryce. We need to get him 2. Let's bring him over here. And of course, we heard about how he was blown away by Nicole and David Tepper. That's not what we need to hear. I needed him to be blown away with Frank Reich, Thomas Brown, Deuce Staley, and Josh McCown. But that's not what happened. What happened was everything fell to pieces because the owner meddled. Now, again, we already know that he's had a meeting with David Tepper after the loss. What changes happen to this team immediately or within the next 10 days? And are they directly coming from him and Dan Morgan, or are they coming from David Tepper? That's a question that we're probably not going to get the answer to, but something I want fans to really think about. Don't blame this guy. Don't blame the last coach. You know what? Blame Rule. I'll give you that one. Blame Matt Rule. But he's got to get a pass, dude. He was thrown into a situation that is a dumpster fire with another dumpster fire inside of it. So we are the bottom of the league. We're going to continue to be there until we can do something. That commit to the run was such BS, and I think it's because he doesn't like Miles Sanders or Chuba. And again, Chuba's at the end of his contract. Next year, he's a free agent. Maybe there's a Miles Sanders, Jonathan Brooks thing, or once Jonathan Brooks comes back healthy, watch us recommit to that run game. And I bet you it's because he doesn't trust the running backs. Because we paid the offensive line. There shouldn't be any issue there. It's the running backs. It's also that Bryce, first throw was an interception and they immediately played behind. Can't really run the ball a whole lot.
Said yesterday that you thought Diontae was open on that first pick. Did the tape reinforce that?
He had a surface. He definitely had a window in there. It was good, tight press coverage. That's the world we live in the NFL when teams are playing man. So I thought there was a surface there, and I thought Bryce just missed him high, and the post safety was in position to make the play.
You and Dan have been very cognizant about not wanting to talk about last year.
Yeah.
Last year's.
Yes.
When you start like you did yesterday, and in that fashion, do you get concerned that your fan base is going to be, here we go again?
Fortunately for me, as the head coach of this team, I have to be concerned about the coaches and the players first and foremost, and making sure we take the next step fundamentally. And hopefully everybody can understand the discipline that is required to be in the moment, to be present in this week. The gift we have of, as of 30 minutes ago, that game's over with. And now we have to move on, and we got the Chargers coming in on Sunday. And so that discipline is huge, and it's a practice, and it's intentionality, and it's something that I have to be really, really strict about with our group is now let's take the next step. We are here. That was us yesterday. We are here today, and we're looking forward to this next challenge and this next opportunity to take the next step. So I have to be focused that way, Joe.
This continues to look like last year, though. These press conferences, the press conferences I did last year on Frank Reich, this was the same pattern. Starting off really positive. Hey, we're installing the scheme. Bryce looks great. He's throwing some interceptions in preseason, but hey, we're going to get through that. Then it slowly goes through. We get to the first game. We didn't get blown out 47-10. I'll tell you that much. But at the same time, we're kind of seeing the same coach fatigue that we saw with Frank. Frank just powered down. By the time that, separation press conference happened, it was, all the writing was on the wall. This is the first bit of writing on the wall. And the fan base, the people that wanted a 10+ win season, and all those people that were out there saying generational receipts are all those same people that were more upset than even I was about this showing this week. I think it was absolutely ridiculous how they played. And again, we kept going for the dog thing. I'm going to do a whole separate video on that, but I just feel like we got, golden doodles instead of getting like pit bulls, or instead of getting mastiffs, or instead of getting, Shar-Peis. I don't know. Insert actually big aggressive breed here. This is I don't know. I don't know what we're building. We're building a dog pound for seniors. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Dave, I understand the fine line you have to walk in terms of preseason, and you don't want to get anybody hurt. You don't want any injuries. Are you in your mind questioning, should I put guys out there more? I mean, to get a little more used to each other, more playing time now?
Again, we got to consider everything, to see if we can put ourselves to take the next step get ourselves ready for a full season. We have to think about all of it,
Dave, you've been.
This is not characteristic of Dave, though. This is like mail it in Dave. I'm not saying he's literally mailing it in, but it just seems like he's dissociating almost. Like he doesn't really want to be here. And of course, this is a loss. You got to answer for it and all that other stuff. I understand you don't really want to be here. You'd rather be at home relaxing or teaching guys the scheme, the playbook, whatever. His body language is just off. Yeah, he's giving you the information, but he's really not giving us what we're looking for, which is what really happened. Oh, it's all 3 phases. It's this, it's that. Bryce overthrew this. It's like, okay, if it's a failure from everybody, then that's a failure of the coaching staff, the organization, the front office. Like, everybody falls into that, not just you. I just wish you had somebody to advocate for you, and I feel like the GM should do that. But Morgan is essentially a Tepper puppet in my mind, especially since he came from the Fitterer administration. Again, he was our assistant GM. Nothing changed in the GM world. We just got another guy that Tepper's going to manipulate. Is Dave that guy? Because Dave seems super happy about everything. And if he's getting manipulated from behind the scenes by David Tepper, I wish he would come out here and be at least a little fiery to tell us, hey, man, this is not what I signed up for, essentially. Or not, this is not right, what's being done to me.
Later practices, mainly because you wanted to get guys used to the flow of like when game time is. How do you think the night before process worked and then getting to the game? Like pre-game, how do you think that all kind of came together?
I felt great about the process. I felt great about a camp where, we practiced early for body readiness, and then as we got closer to the season, we moved our practice a little bit later just so that their readiness and when they're going to play full speed makes sense. So, we've had these guys on a good time clock. But again, I'm considering looking at all of it, just making sure, in year one, let's just be really honest and really open about our processes and the way we did things.
Man thinks he's getting a year 2. Bro, if you have 5 more games of that, if you end up in week 8 without a win, and you end up with 0-8, 0-9, whatever it is, worse than Frank Reich did, there ain't no year 2, my guy. You need 2 wins by week 10. 2 by week 10. Mark it here.
Result is, and that's one game. We're going to have to collect some games and then say, did that effect carry out for all these games? Was this game one piece of it an anomaly? To speak specifically about this game, the one thing I will say is we lost in all of the critical areas. We turned the ball over 3 times. They turned it over once. The game was gone by then when we recovered that punt, right? So I can't even count that one towards our turnover ratio. We ended up -3, really, in my mind, in significant time. That alone is enough. Then we gave up 12 explosives on defense, and we only got 4 on offense, and 2 of them happened late in the game. Then you go to 3rd and 4th down. We only converted 3 out of 12 or 13, I think. They were 54% in the same area, so we lost that one as well. We were 1 for 2 in the red zone. They were 4 for 4, so we lost that one as well. So in all of these, if you just win one of these critical areas, you got a really good chance of winning. We lost all 4, and that's when it gets lopsided, and the victory and the loss margin ends up that way because of that. So that's our focus. Let's hone in on these focuses. We've been crazy about the ball. We're going to take it up another notch. We're going to have drills. We're going to make sure that we emphasize it more in our meetings. Like, how much more can we emphasize it? I don't know, but let's find out. Let's find a way to do it. Working as a coaching staff in our 3rd down areas to put our guys in better situations. We talk about the protection issues, on some of the 3rd downs, the sacks, right? We had a scheme. They schemed us better. That's coaching. We have to be able to put our guys in better situation in that regard.
One of the things to remember, though, is our opponent, the Chargers, just brought in DiCaprio Bootle. So any secrets that Bootle might have known about the defense are about to be in the Chargers' hands. Yeah, it was a failure on every level, but it was truly the biggest failure on offense. Defense, yeah, you get your chops and everything like that, but they wouldn't have been in that situation if it wasn't for the offensive failures. So it's coach speak to say that all three failed. You are the one that really failed the team, unfortunately, or at least the scheme, or at least the way it was executed on the field. If it was Bryce, then Bryce needs to know that. Then the fan base needs to know that. We need to know who's truly at fault here, not, oh, we failed all around. That's a very cop-out answer, and that's not really what fans are looking for, nor is that what the media is looking for. I need to know what's really going on, because last year I was lied to by the owner, David Tepper, and I feel like I'm getting lied to again.
In the sacks,
Yeah.
all those came from the DB. From a coach offense, like, is it Bryce's responsibility to check out of those? How does that work?
It's both, but honestly, it's on the coaching staff. It's on us. We sat there like we were sitting ducks. We didn't do enough to put our guys, to give them simpler solutions in some of those. And this is one of the best third down pressure packages that you're going to go against. We saw it week 1. We've been against it before. We had a plan. He had counters. So we got out coached in that regard. I take that personal. There was one that Bryce could have seen, and he could have flipped the protection. He's been fantastic doing that. That's the only one I would say that he could have really fixed the problem. They gave us issues with what they did. We need to do better than that. That's coaching.
No, coaching is saying that Bryce did something fantastic when he put up 10 points and we got blown out 47-10. I'm sorry, he doesn't get fantastic for anything. He can't consistently throw over 200 yards. He's got a horrible completion percentage. Out of starting quarterbacks this past week, he was rated the lowest. Come on. Bryce needs to step up, period. Now, obviously, if he goes to a stable franchise after this and becomes something, plenty of people are going to be back here trying to find videos of me being like, oh, Bryce sucked. It's an organizational failure, the reason why Dave Canales is even here and why Bryce Young is even here. That's as simple and easy as to put it. None of those things happen if the owner doesn't meddle. Frank Reich gets Stroud. Hey, it's a tough first year, tough sledding. Maybe we win 3 games. Maybe, let's go crazy. We win 4. He decides to retain Reich the next year. We go into it. We know what we need to do. And now we're able to build from there. But instead of letting the first rebuild start, I think he's going to pull the plug on the second rebuild. And we're going to end up with another coach next year. I hate to say that because, again, I'm a Canales guy. I like him. I don't see it. Especially if we're going to continue to give BS answers like this.
You say you take it personal.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Oh, for me, I take it personal anytime that I feel like I'm putting our players at a disadvantage where they don't have simple solutions.
Dave, you mentioned trying to bond with players at a real human level.
Yeah.
Talking them through something like happened today there. How did they receive that news? I mean, for a guy who means so much to that team.
I'm not going to lie. I messed with Dave Canales forever. This is the first time I've ever seen him with a freaking water. I'm clapping here for you, buddy. Just clapping for you. Absolutely. So happy for you. I hate seeing him lick his lips. They finally got him a bottle of water. I have finally reached the pinnacle of roll coverage. Thank you. Thank you to anybody that got to see this or anybody that's made it this far in the video. This is finally the payoff if you've been a die-hard roll coverage fan. He's finally drinking something. If we didn't just get blown out, I would think it was a new day.
Especially for a guy like Derrick, who really embodies what we want to become as a team. The effort, the way he comes to work, how hard he tries at practice to get himself ready, how much he cares, how he plays through the end of a game, all the way through in every phase, whenever he's asked to be on the field. He still gives me a great example to point the other guys to say, guys, this is what we want to be like. This is our team. This is how we finish. And the guys definitely take that personally. And I have to just encourage them to say, okay, now whoever goes in next, follow that lead. Play hard. As long as you're on the field with great effort, chase it down, no matter what the score is.
To follow follow up on that, yesterday after you mentioned that the adversity is a part of the process in becoming
Yeah.
who this team will be, what is an example that you point to with the team, or even something that you experience that you draw from that allows you to stay disciplined when there is early adversity?
You know, I didn't really dive too much into that because there's so much fundamental basic stuff to clean up from this game. It's just really, for me, it was like, when you guys watch the film, when we all watch the film together, we're going to have easy things to point at. We're going to have easy things to show. That's just like, it's a trust factor. It's execution. It's fundamentals. It's the basics of ball. And that was enough. I just felt like, you know, you only have so much margin to really pour into and draw from your team. And I felt like if our attention can just go on getting our football right, if our attention can just go on playing good, clean ball, did everybody do right? Not that there's ever a perfect game, but like really flipping the odds of, like, most of the time we were in great position. Most of the time we executed at a high level. That's really where the energy needs to go. Can we take care of the ball? Can we secure it in traffic? Can we do those things that are important, you know, like, so I just have to be really, really cognizant of what I'm asking our team to do before I start to go into like the bigger, you know, the bigger responses to things. Like the best response is, can we just get our football right?
And I got an answer for you. We can't.
You got players who got to replace Derrick.
Yeah.
And they got to do their job.
Yeah.
But Derrick does a lot of jobs really well. And
Yeah.
How big of a loss on the big picture of things is that?
Yeah, definitely a huge loss, right? He's one of our best players, so that's something that's big shoes to fill. But at the same time, we get players in there. I want them to know and be encouraged. Like, if you go in and you play with great technique and you just do your job, we don't need you to make the special plays that Derrick makes. Just do your job. You help the guys on either side of you, and that's the truth of it. If you can play team football with a bunch of guys, you can have success. And I've seen that happen on both sides, all phases. Really, is everybody doing their job and trusting each other.
So let me make a prediction for this Chargers game then. Derrick Brown is now on season-ending IR, which puts our run defense in a bit of a hole. It's basically Jadeveon Clowney or bust. He needs 15 sacks to have this defense look decent. Josie Jewell needs, 7 interceptions. JC needs 7 or 8. Like, this defense absolutely has to ball out to be able to keep us in a game. So this Chargers game, we are going to be ran all over. I might take one of their running backs 150 plus rushing yards and a touchdown as a bet. And if I do, I'll make sure to post it on Twitter at Roll Coverage Pod on Twitter. So make sure you go follow me on there as well. This Chargers team is going to be a massive run team, especially with Gus and Dobbins back there. Joe Alt looks like a all-pro as soon as he steps into the league. Might give Trent Richardson a run for his money, or hey, once he leaves, it might be Joe Alt. Yeah, we don't have that guy on offense. Even Damian Lewis or Robert Hunt, they're not even in the same stratosphere. So, yeah, our pass rush is going to be minimal at best. I'll be surprised if we can get a sack, kind of like how we did this week. Like, I was surprised. Were you surprised? Because I was surprised.
Last one from Alex.
Dave, sorry about that. Looking back on the limited rush attempts in the game,
Yeah.
was that a product of something the Saints were doing, or was that a game situation?
Yeah. It's just a game, right? We got the game got so out of hand, we had to shift modes, and I still wanted to try to mix some of that because, you know, if you allow a team to just kind of play back far enough, they'd cover all your passes. So you got to mix it a little bit, but we just weren't in a position to play our kind of football, something that we've been talking about from the beginning. You got to win on first down. So you have second down, you got your whole call sheet. So you have a manageable third down if you get to it, and you can convert those, you know. And we were not able to play our style of football, so we made it harder on ourselves. When you get into known pass, that's when all the tough coverages, the tough pressures, and all that stuff come, you know. And we just we couldn't do it. We couldn't play the type of football that we want to play.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, just want to first say thank you to David Canales, and of course, thank you to my Carolina Panthers. I love doing the press conference breakdowns. It's, of course, what I do here on Roll Coverage, home of the press conference breakdown. But Dave Canales just looks beat down. He looks hurt. He looks like he had a plan that all went haywire immediately. The run game wasn't able to be established. Bryce didn't look like a competent quarterback, overthrowing balls, guys not in the right position. And, of course, just injuries. Like I said, The injury bug has bitten us all over, and this is just a mulligan year for me as a Panthers fan. But I want to know your thoughts. Did Dave Canales look as shell-shocked as Bryce did? Because that's my opinion. I think he looked just as, frazzled and everything. But, hey, if you ever want to come on here and talk instead of just watching me here on YouTube, make sure you email me at the email that's always in the description. I made Roll Coverage for one reason and one reason only, to talk about sports, because it's sports for sports' sake. We don't need a reason to talk about it. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and of course share. Hopefully you have a great rest of the day. Peace.